My name is Adrian Nantchev, and this podcast is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So, what I do is I find people from around the world, whether entrepreneurs or not, that are doing the things they love to do. They're making a difference in the world and they're forging their own future. They are becoming remarkable. So today I'm joined with Evan Pantazi to talk about, well, Evan, please tell the audience, please tell the world, what is it you do, what your story is, and what difference you're making in the world itself.
Well, Adrian, thanks for having me on the show. First off, I want to say that I appreciate that and give me the opportunity to let people know what I do and what my organization is doing. We're working with something called Kyusho. Now, that's a Japanese term meaning vital point. Now, in life, there's vital points for everything. There's vital points in the way you structure your health and your diet. There's in business, in finance, even in building a building, there's a vital point, a keystone. And getting our people to understand and look at these vital points in life, not just in a hand-to-hand combat, which is my main thrust in my business at the moment, but also business techniques and how they can grow their networks around the world. And that's what we've been able to accomplish so far.
Oh, okay, interesting. So what could you tell me about Kyusho exactly? You mentioned the key structure, so I'm guessing that's way more to do than just architecture. It's more to do what? I want to say spiritual stuff, because you mentioned the human side, but can you elaborate on that, please?
Sure. Well, there's a vital point to everything we do in life. There's a way that we build our future with a thought, an idea, an emotion, a passion. And that's what I try to get across. And how we do that let's take the hand-to-hand combatives. I know it's a little bit out of most people's realms, but it's an interesting aspect and an interesting topic. We have taken the world of martial arts, and we've shown that it's not just a sport, it's actually a very important self-defense mechanism. And we're bringing people back to the origination of this art by using the vital points of the body, that being the nerve structure, the blood structure, the organ structures, rather than just blocking an arm and punching to a head or a body. Now, taking that a little bit further, because we developed this martial aspect and we actually affect the internal anatomy, the physiology, and the functionality of the human body, we had to learn to restore it. So we got into the key components of health restoration and maintenance. For example, if you hit someone on a leg nerve and it cripples them for a certain point in time, we have to know how to correct that because it's ethical and we need the guy to practice with again. So what we've done is we've gone past the old traditional acupuncture and acupressure methods and gone into a body restorative process. We still label Kyusho because it's easier just to label it as that as opposed to coming up with another idea, and how to manipulate the nervous system of the body to correct the health and correct the problems that ensue. And that's the keystone of that business. And how we developed from there is I was looking for people to spread this information around the world because it's rather remarkable. We've had some incredible success stories. As an example, I work as a health practitioner as well, working with stroke victims. They have the hand or an arm or a side of the body that dysfunctions right after their stroke. We've learned how to open up the hand if it's in a tightened position, how to relax the arm, the torso, the body, so they regain a more natural feel to themselves and a functionality as well. So I think this is really critical information. So I was lucky enough to be one of the first people on the internet with the martial arts. So way back in '95, I was doing a continuous daily forum. And from there, people slowly came onto the internet because in those times, that was pretty early on in the internet days. They started picking up on it and going back and forth with it. And it picked up an entire network around the world. And from there, it was just sort of a loose format. But then I decided, I have a degree in education, and I decided there needed to be a curriculum and a business model that went with that curriculum to help people to a greater extent rather than them just wandering around in the darkness like I did in the early days. So I put that together and have been able to affiliate so far. That was back in 2003. We have right now over 260 affiliates in about 50 countries. So it's spreading. It's taking a while. Of course, it's taking longer than I would prefer because every person that goes into a venture, they want it to spread fast. But what they need to really remember, and this is a vital point of business structure, you need to be patient, but you need to be determined and never give up. Even when it's slow, even when it seems to be going in reverse, you need to just keep plugging away at it because eventually the passion comes out in you and it spreads to other people. It gets to be rather infectious. So that's where we're at this point.
Yeah, a lot to say there. Excuse my ignorance, but has Kyusho got to do anything with magnets at all?
No, but magnets can affect the nervous system of the body too. We do a lot of research. We're not just martial artists. We've gone into medical universities. We've talked to doctors. We have doctors on our team that verify and investigate and research everything that we do. And we're not just into the modern Western medicine. We're into the bioelectrics of the body. We do brainwave research and all sorts of research on all different things. For your question on the magnets, if your body is bioelectrical, there is a connection with the magnetic field and the energetic field in the world. And we're very attuned to that as well.
When you said the bioelectricity, that reminded me, there was this certain scan, like a CAT scan or something like that, that you could do that could measure the bioelectricity in the body, but I can't remember what it was called, bioelectric or something sort of like that. But does that not ring a bell at all?
No, there's so many devices nowadays, it's really hard to keep track with them.
Yeah, that just reminded me of something, but nonetheless, and this forum in 1995, wow, it really would have been the dark days back then, a completely different world with regards to the internet. But with regards to Kyusho, is that how you pronounce it exactly?
Yes, it is.
How is it people can apply that at home with household things and no specialist equipment? So how can people apply that in their lives?
Well, you could do it from a health standpoint, and that's where we like to start people off. Looking at, say, you have to work with hiccups. Every once in a while, people get hiccups, especially if you have a small child at home or a baby at home. We've learned how to just do a quick 10-second massage on a nerve in the arm. And what it does is it releases the diaphragm, or it relaxes the diaphragm, and it relieves the hiccups. Now, that hiccup remedy could also be for a stitch in your side. When you're doing something very athletic, some people will get a stitch in the side. All that is a diaphragmatic cramp. And by doing the same recipe, you can release that as well. And you can do it, of course, for family members. You can get rid of headaches. You can get rid of stress and anxiety, insomnia, the whole gambit. Now, once people start really involving that with their life and their way of doing things, if a family member doesn't feel well, getting hands-on with them and helping to get them to relax and really restore their body, well, then they start looking into deeper aspects everywhere around them. They start thinking about their health in maintenance terms. And then, of course, that leads into diets and vitamins and physical activity. And once they start really looking for those vital keys, they start looking at everything in their life with the vital keys. How they make their bed in the morning, how they dress, how they take care of themselves in their homes, how they work with their business, their investments, everything of that nature. It starts to become just a natural thing in their life.
Yeah, and you mentioned business then. How could someone apply Kyusho into their business? It sounds like a very holistic thing, but how could that be applied to business and accounting and marketing? Okay.
Say we're looking at the vital point in our health. Okay, so we start investigating the vital points of everything, like I mentioned, from bed making to clothing to everything else. It starts to make you look deeper into what you do on a day-to-day basis. And of course, that involves your business, your investment. And when you're looking to heal yourself, say, from a headache, if you take a neurological approach with the Kyusho, you can get rid of a headache in, again, 10, 15 seconds. When you take an aspirin, okay, it takes, 20 minutes, an hour before your headache dissipates. So if you relate that back to business, okay, you can start looking at what's the shortcut, what's the nerve structure of this business idea or this financial idea, what is the concept that I'm trying to achieve and how can I achieve it the fastest and most efficiently, as opposed to taking the regular route that the mainstream has given us, like the aspirin or the pharmaceutical in this instance. So you look more to the core concepts in each aspect that you do. For business, as a matter of fact, when I was looking at it again, I developed a curriculum because there was a need for it. Because what I did was I looked inside the structure that we were working with, and I said there has to be a set way to get people to be involved, learn it faster and easier, okay, be more efficient, save money in the process. And when you can do that for people, it helps them build upon that. And now they can go out and they can build their own separate business with that by involving other people's, developing groups, developing their networks.
Okay, interesting. So I'm curious then, how did you get into this? And how can other people learn more and start applying this, understanding the basic teachings of this in their life?
I got involved because it's been in the martial arts for centuries. It was a well-kept secret. Only the one person that was the boss of that one clan or family would know this information and pass it on to one other person. In our decentralized world now, that's not the way to benefit most people, or to use what you have, your skills, your knowledge, your expertise, or whatever it may be, to benefit other people. That's the ultimate goal, to have everybody grow as we proceed as a society. So what I needed to do was spread that. So looking further into that, I just started developing it on my own and using a network of friends and trying to spread it through that way.
All right, so you mentioned society. So in what way could Kyusho help society? I want to go on a limb and say that if people can heal their own ailments and whatever's wrong with them at home without the use of, say, drugs or without the use of anything artificial, then that's a much more cleaner, purer life.
Absolutely. And that's why acupuncture has lasted for thousands of years. We have many drugs, but we also have herbs that can offset those drugs. Now, I'm not a medical professional, so I want to make that disclaimer right now. But how they can help themselves, I mean, is if you can take away someone's headache without taking a narcotic or taking a drug, and you can do this for free, this is going to help everybody in their particular situations. You don't spend the money, you have it to invest somewhere, as an example. It also spreads into learning how to take care of yourself just a little bit further, okay, and maintaining our lives and spreading that information as well. It's getting to the point where now everybody realizes, now I'm not against modern Western medicine, by the way, okay? If I have a serious illness, yes, I am going to a doctor. However, the everyday things that bother us, I mean, they're all coming from stress, all right? As we get stressed, as an example, we start to get choked up a little bit. That's the seat of your emotion in your throat. So we start to develop difficulty in talking or just breathing or just getting an anxious feeling. And that's why people have like a fear of talking. They get all choked up. We've learned how to release that choking mechanism. Now, stress builds. It'll go from the throat and then it develops into the shoulders, where you start to shrug your shoulders, pull your shoulders up, which contracts the arms. And then you start getting very anxious. And as you've built up that anxiousness in your shoulders and your arms and you've tightened everything, well, now you start to develop headaches. Once you start to develop headaches, you start to develop other malfunctions in the body. You won't sleep well at night. You'll have difficulty. You go into depression. So being able to release these things as we see them happening is the vital concept of our vital point therapies. You catch it early on, you recognize it, you catch it, and then you can offset some of the stress building, because all it is neurological compounding of stress that affects everything from our digestion to our elimination to our physical functionality and even our thoughts. So this is the way I believe it's going to benefit the people at home, is they can start to learn how to help themselves, and again, without cost.
One thing I don't quite understand is that with regards to headaches and similar things with migraines, what if there's a cause of that is not to do with the muscles, like, too much noise, for example, or staying awake for too long? Surely those causes don't affect the muscles. So how would Kyusho help in that regard with something as simple as a headache?
Well, it's like anything else. Nothing is 100%. This isn't going to cure everything. This helps to offset those common ailments that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. You have a serious illness like migraines. It could be anything from the blood flow in your brain to many other things. I had a client many years ago. She was 16 when she started developing her migraines, and it was 24 when I finally met her because she was referred. And I'd take away her migraines, but they were triggered off by everything from brushing her teeth to a type of food she'd eat. Maybe she watched TV too long. She didn't know exactly what would set it off. And of course, she went through a battery of tests, hospitals, doctors, you name it. And nobody could really get down to the basis or that vital point of her problem. Now, I dealt with the headaches. I could get rid of the headaches. But again, she'd go home and it would trigger off with something she ate. So I told her, this is beyond my ability. So I sent her to a friend that was a little bit more adept at it, who in turn sent her to another contact that was more adept to it. It came down to the fact that she had silver fillings in her mouth. And the silver and the mercury was doing something to her liver, which was triggering off something else. She got rid of the silver fillings from the advice of the friend of the friend, okay, and has not had a migraine since. And that was about maybe 10, 15 years ago. So that's a remarkable thing. And we found it because we looked at the core concepts. We looked at what was going on. I gave her a certain relief, but I couldn't take it far enough. So I sent her to a friend who took her a little further, and then getting down to the vital point that it was just actually silver in her mouth and the mercury of that silver that was causing the problem. That's where the benefit was.
Yeah, no surprise that mercury is causing some problems. I'm surprised that silver was problematic, because they're quite healthy, very natural, and also antibiotic or cleansing in regards to bacteria. So I'm surprised that silver would have caused the problem.
Well, it's not really the silver per se. It's the silver fillings you get in your mouth or whatever compounds are in those fillings. There was something not so good about those.
Oh, I get you. Okay. Oh, interesting. So something within the silver, structure. All right, interesting. So you mentioned stress also. How would Kyusho be used in dealing with or preventing stress?
Okay, well, preventing the stress, you can't do that because it's outside influence basically that comes at you. But to dissipate the stress within your body as soon as you feel the contraction, which stress always causes neurological overdose, I guess, to the muscles, which makes them contract a little bit more. And that's where you start getting problems with all your functionality, because a constricted muscle will affect blood flow. It'll affect everything eventually. So learning to recognize the vital sign that it's starting and to offset it right away before it gets to deep sea. And because the more the stress goes, the longer it will take to dissipate and get rid of it.
Yeah, definitely. I was watching a video recently by a doctor, and it was showing different tests for checking level of stress, and one of them was like take a paper clip and just scratch yourself, and depending on how long that white mark stays there, is an indicator as to how much of a certain chemical inside your brain, I forgot what it's called, A something or other, rather short word, right, is in your body. So stress, yeah, very interesting and deadly phenomenon.
Yeah, well, most of our problems these days are stress related. And the stress is coming from the EMTs, or the electrical magnetic frequencies that are out there. EMFs, excuse me, not EMTs. Those are the good guys. But the electrical frequencies that are all around us, from our computers to our telephones to just the signals going through the air. This is what's causing our nerve functions to malfunction, and why we have such a high level of stress. There's also a man out there, I don't know if you're familiar with the name Cliff High. He keeps mentioning to us that the sun is in a different stage of its life, and it's actually emitting far more electrical frequencies of a different nature that are making people more anxious now anyway. And that could have a lot to do with the weather patterns. Everything is interconnected in life. And that's one of the ideas of Kyusho, is recognizing that interconnectedness and that where things originate.
No, interesting, fascinating. Yeah, I've heard that the sun does affect a lot of stuff, not just health, but also climate and all the rest. You mentioned the EMFs or EMT with regards to the waves.
EMF.
EMF, that's it. All right. Because I was watching a documentary a few months ago, and there was this family, Australia or New Zealand, that was building a new home that had certain materials embedded between the walls that prevented electrical waves coming into the property to reduce all the electrical interference of the body. How bad is the EMF and all the rest screwing with the human body?
Well, I think it depends on the individual's constitution, because everybody's different. Some people will catch a cold, some people won't catch a cold, some people get measles or whatnot. So it all depends on the person's constitution. And for some people, I mean, I used to work at a company that did aerospace. I was in a little cubicle. I had the fluorescent lighting above my head. And that bothered me. I could feel the vibratory energy coming from those lights. All right, so that's why I got out of that business and got into my current businesses, is because that office environment, I already knew that there were frequencies that were disturbing me. And I would go home, I wouldn't feel good about being at work, which for some people that's just a natural phenomenon anyway. But it added extra stress to my life. So I know firsthand of what it can do in an office environment. So I can't even imagine if you're an electrician or if you work near these cell phone towers, what's happening to your body. And they have tons of stories about the microwave and how that's affecting our bodies as well. And personally, if I stand in front of a microwave and I turn it on, I can feel the vibration. So I'm pretty sensitive to this electrical field for whatever reason. Some people are not. Some people may be, but choose to ignore it. So you can never tell.
All right. So how does someone go about measuring and reducing their exposure to the EMF in their life? One little thing that I tend to do is my phone. I've heard never to sleep with the phone under the bed, under the pillow even. I've never done it anyway. But also, every now and then I endeavour to keep it in the other room, and also always at least 10 centimetres away from me, because the waves can affect skin cells, testicles, and knows what else.
Right. The way I avoid it is, well, I've lived on the ocean for a lot of my life, and every time I move away from the ocean, I can feel it. Right now, I live on the ocean in a nice place. It's out on a peninsula, so it's very remote from the inner cities where most of the activity is. And in fact, my cell phone doesn't really get great reception where I am, which is annoying at some point and induces stress at some level. But at the other level, maybe it's doing better for me. But if you go out into nature, you take a walk in the woods, just away from steel, concrete, and society, this is what heals you. And that's why people feel so rejuvenated when they go to the beach, or they take a walk in the woods, or they go up to the mountains where there isn't any of this modern apparatus throwing these signals at us.
Yeah, interesting. Definitely, I agree with that. Yeah, okay. So, we're just taking a step back. one question that just come to my mind a lot is for the critics out there that will say things like this EMF stuff is perfectly fine, the electromagnetic waves from the phones are fine, or the microwave, and all this homeopathy stuff and this Kyusho is pseudoscience. What do you, as an argument, what do you, as a defense, what do you say to those people?
Well, to each their own. Some people recognize what's going wrong in the world. Some people are very asleep. All right, you take a look at the financial system. We have a stock market that's going gangbusters. Everybody's so excited, but that's just a hidden sign of hyperinflation. That's where they're parking it. So whether you realize the vital point of that or you don't, that's again an individual thing. There's no way to tell a person that's dead set against believing something to believe in it. Take religion. Okay, there's a big one. Some people believe it, some people don't. So again, to each their own.
Yeah, I heard the principle that even if something is perceived as pseudoscience, that if there is some cause and effect there, if there is some result from doing this activity, then it's still worth believing it anyway, because you still want to have that result, regardless of what you think the cause might be. So if you believe that and you're aware that of EMF reduction and ways to reduce stress and all the rest, then that's what you want to continue doing in life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have people that will naysay anything, and that's just to voice their opinion. So if something works, even 1%, it's worthy of investigation. If something works 50%, that's very worth investigation. So you also have to weigh it in that context and who the naysayer is. You go onto YouTube, you make a video on how to help someone reduce a headache as example, and you'll get someone that comes on and says this won't work, this can't work, it didn't work, or whatever. And they expect that just because they say it didn't, that it is, and they have no experience with that. Or they just looked at a YouTube and then they went and tried it. It didn't work for them, so automatically it's not a viable situation. So again, you have to weigh everything and who's saying what and ignore most of them.
Oh yeah, you want to ignore 99% of the people out there because they don't know what they're talking about in one way or another. Whether it's money, health, wealth, finance, anything, ignore them. They don't know what they're talking about, especially in a bar or a pub. Yeah. There you get all sorts of people yakking and talking. Don't know what they'll say, this or that, and it's hyperinflation. Nah, you're all right. None of that nonsense. And it's like, okay, let's look at the chart. Nah, but speaking of telling people about this and listening to people, how do you go about spreading the message about Kyusho? How do you go about enlightening people about it?
Well, again, it started online, and I was fortunate being one of the first ones or pioneering more on the internet. And what that did was it brought in people that were starting to pick up the internet channel, and they were getting into the discussion, and then they'd go back and they'd try it, and then they need help. So you go and you help them, and you start working out this communal give and take. Okay, I helped you with this. Did you have success? And then from there, keep building, taking it one step at a time. Now, if you can satisfy one person, say someone, you're in England, I'm over here in the U.S. If I can give you a headache recipe and it works on your partner and you have great result with it, well, you're going to start telling other people. They'll tell other people, and all of a sudden it starts building. Because when you benefit people, you help everybody and it grows. J. Paul Getty had a saying a long time ago, and he said, you have to develop products that people want and need. People want relief from problems. They want to feel better all the time. They want to have less stress, and they need it. Otherwise, their health diminishes. So it's actually an easy sell once you get them past that disbelief if they are one of those.
Oh yeah, definitely. Everyone is a little skeptical at first. Marketers and advertisers over the years and years have ruined a lot of things where they've found ways to always sell to people. The way I see it now is that we like to buy, but we don't like to be sold to. So if you're selling, my analogy is if you're selling weed killer, don't talk about your weed killer, the ingredients, the chemicals, for example, or the how to use it. Talk about the customer's crabgrass. Why is it bad? Why is it spreading, and how to kill it?
Absolutely.
Join the conversation that's happening in the customer's mind.
But you know what's interesting to me is if you watch any TV at all, you see a pharmaceutical ad comes on, and it has one thing that it can help, like dry eyes. But then they have this myriad of other things that it's going to affect. Like it could destroy your kidneys or your liver or your heart, or some people will get diabetic. It's got so many negatives, and it helps this one small problem that people are so accustomed to that now, they glance over what the original issue was and going back to a simple fix like nature would intend. And let's face it, human contact, human empathy, human sympathy, that's what people need more than a pharmaceutical drug.
Yeah, definitely. When you say what nature would intend, what do you mean by that? Because I've lately been trying a bit of water fasting and dry fasting to experiment out of curiosity. How else would you recommend, as nature intends?
Okay, well, first of all, dietary needs. If you eat the way you're supposed to eat, like vegetations, you can cook them, but when you start like processing them with chemicals or chemical processes, obviously that's against nature. If you just grab the plant and throw it in a pot, that's a little bit more natural. If you drink something natural like water compared to a Coke that was processed or built or engineered, okay, that's a little bit more of a natural process. Someone, say for example, your child is coughing. What's the natural thing to do? Pat him on the back. Well, it just so happens that if you have asthma, okay, you have the same reflex as if you are coughing. And if you pat a person on a specific target on the back, you can eliminate that asthmatic attack. So it's just going back to the natural things that we did. You bump your head, you rub your head. Okay? It's a natural thing that occurs, and it's a reflex. It's not anything that we thought of. It's very simple. It's your body just trying to take care of itself. So that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I realized ages ago that the body, in its infinite wisdom, that we don't control that part, they will always find like a way to revert back to like the health if it's injured. Like, if I break an arm, for example, the bone heals, the body heals itself. It might take time, it's strenuous, inconvenient, whatever, but it's automatic. You can cut your nails, they grow back. Even the hair, you cut the hair, it grows back. The body always reverts back to like the healthy side.
Sure.
It's just you don't control that. It's like a switch. The bone's broken, switch and tick it or whatever. But it's fascinating. I think a lot of people underestimate the body, don't appreciate it. I don't know. I don't like to put words in their mouths, but I don't think that a lot of people appreciate this thing we have. And the chance of us even being alive, being born to have a body in the first place is incredibly high anyway.
Well, that was stripped out of us by the corporations. Okay, if you have a product you want to sell like a pharmaceutical, you're going to tell people they can't heal themselves. Okay, when of course they could drink a herbal tea perhaps and dissipate the same problem as if taking this medication that just causes other medication. I have a situation where my wife was put on a certain medication for a minor problem. All right, it developed into a worse problem, and it developed into another worse problem. So she's more into the pharmaceuticals, and I wasn't. Now she's been convinced, obviously, that was the incorrect path for her to take. But again, it's just education and getting people to understand that what you see on TV is not real. It can sometimes be misleading, false, or injurious to you. And to get back into our natural state of being where people helped people. They took care of themselves and their families.
Now, when you say go back to a time when people help people, how do you think you can go about as a champion your cause how do you think you can go about making things like the pharmaceutical industry or sector or even monopoly obsolete, as opposed to challenging it and attacking it, which they've got the high ground and all the advantages? How do you think you can create even a system, maybe even purely through awareness and demand, foot traffic and voting with dollars, to make their infrastructure, what they have, their monopoly, obsolete?
Well, you reach one person at a time. And that's why building the network that I've been trying to do over the years is, yes, I know it's taking time. It's not as fast as I wish it would be, obviously. However, it's working. Okay. And I think the pharmaceutical companies, that they're just imploding themselves because people are starting to awaken. Okay. And once you have that awakening, it goes from one person to 2 people to 4 people to 8, and it just keeps multiplying. Look what's happening in the crypto universe. Okay, it's spreading like wildfire because people are waking up to the problems in other mechanisms that we've been forced to swallow.
Yeah, I feel that with regards to the crypto community, it's like people are just leaving or left the matrix. It's critical thinkers. They're completely different kind of people. More enlightened, high frequency. I'm not sure what the terminology would be, but they're completely different. Chakras always, or Kundalini, but they're just different standards, different breed of people. It's fascinating. You go over to them, and you can talk about different kind of obscure or different, or even this kind of topic in discussion. Even you mentioned briefly the hyperinflation. It makes sense to them. They understand it. It's not like jargon. That means nothing to them. It's a complete different kind of person, and it's right. Beautiful. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, if you look at the geniuses throughout life, like Da Vinci, up even to modern times, like Steve Jobs, these people left the system. Okay, they were too smart. They got out of the college. They dropped out. They started their own venture. They let their creativity flow. Now, the geniuses in life, I believe, are in the crypto space. These guys are brilliant. It's just amazing what they've accomplished and how they're coding and how they're trying to set up a whole new structure that can offset the old structure that is obviously failing. So where the geniuses go, you have to listen. All right, and it takes it takes one person revealing it to another person. Hey, listen to this guy; he's a genius. Okay, and they start listening, and then they start following that way and see, oh, geez, he's right. Okay, that person is a genius, and then they keep going. And the people that have built the cars, the computers, the electronics, they're geniuses. And you look at most of them, they dropped out of school. They dropped out of the programming sessions. So waking people up, I think, is just slowly but surely getting them out of the programming.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable. I think it's exponential. But But speaking of getting people out of the programming, what is it you're working on now, and what's next for you?
Well, I'm still working on my ventures now because that is my passion. I love the martial arts. I want to bring the realities of the martial arts to people rather than the sport and the foolishness that has gone in that industry. In the health industry, I want to make sure that people are understanding to start looking for the natural things in life that fix you rather than the man-made things that are screwing you up worse. I work with law enforcement because I've developed a way for them to be able to control a perpetrator without taking out the billy club or a stun gun or the tear gas. And that's spreading a little bit. And now I'm starting to work with my people that we work a lot through digital money called PayPal and credit cards and things like this to transfer funds back and forth. I'm trying to get them to realize that the value of the blockchain and Bitcoin, Litecoin, whatever they want to use, is starting to grow. It's starting to catch on, to start really realizing what's happening, because eventually if the currencies all dissipate or crash, they'll have something to fall back on for their families' self-protection, for their friends, for the network that I'm building as well. So I'm trying to convert their mindsets over to taking a look at not going all out and doing a full transfer of funds into the cryptocurrencies, But maybe putting in a few bucks a week or transferring back and forth in our businesses using this as opposed to going through the bank. Because if you can start working with that, you eliminate problems like taxation, boundaries, different countries. Being in 50 different countries, there's a lot of limitations on the currencies or the availability of someone to send funds or receive funds. So going through this blockchain is a brilliant new way to give them more freedom and to help our business, because what's going to happen in the future, it's almost all going to be blockchain.
Yeah.
There's going to be very little.
Yeah, about a year ago, didn't know much about it. I knew of it, didn't know too much about it, and was very much on the fence of it. And then in spring, probably a bit more against it because there were some problems with regards to the prices crashing, and I didn't quite. I thought it was more of a greater fool kind of situation. But I knew of it since like 2014, and I remember when Bitcoin was about $197, and even back then, I knew of it. I didn't quite know I knew how to buy it. Yeah, even in a business that accepted Bitcoin back in the day, and it must have been like, I can't remember how much it was, but I knew back then. But as of lately, I've come to realize that cryptocurrency, the blockchain technology especially, has a lot of potential for the future. A massive paradigm shift. It's the network effect, really. It's the user base, the size of the user base, the size of the people that understand what the technology is and how different it is, and such a paradigm shift away from the central banks, away from the inflation and the hyperinflation. That's what the true value and the true purpose of it is. And very similar to places like Steemit and a few others that are coming through the woodworks now. It's the network effect. It's the size of the community and the value that those people bring to the network, whether the content they create or the eyeballs and attention or the connections they have. It's a fascinating paradigm shift, and I believe that today is the equivalent of 1998 for the internet, where it's very early stages, very early pioneer. Probably the next 4 to 6 or so years, we might start to see this going real mainstream with regards to mass adoption. And there's a few barriers that I see for that to happen, but that's a conversation for a whole different time.
I can see it in my own network. And I was just talking to some colleagues that aren't in my network, but in the same industry. And I just mentioned it, and they said, "What? Tell me about that." So it is getting on to people's minds. It's getting into their minds that there's something going on. You can't have anything explode from pennies to $3,500 and not get recognized. People are starting to understand that. People look around, they see that their money in the bank isn't getting any interest. It's tough to get more than $10,000 out without the Spanish Inquisition coming back into time. So they're seeing it. They're waking up one at a time. Fortunately, some have woken up faster. Unfortunately, some will never wake up. But math doesn't lie. I heard some pundit on the YouTube or internet say this, and oh my God, how absolutely true. The math is not going to lie. It's the people that play with the math, but if you can't play with the math because it's an open ledger, then you have truth and honesty coming about. And that's in business, that's in monetary, that's in everything.
Yeah, definitely. But as we begin to wrap this up, what is the best way for the audience to get in touch with you?
Oh, I'm on Steemit. I found that about a year ago. I wasn't one of the first ones on, but still pretty good. And built up a little bit of a community there. So Steemit, just Steemit at Kyusho. Simple. And I have a website, Kyusho.com. And those are the two easiest ways to find me.
All right, cool. Well, I'll have those in the description below. And Evan, it was great having you on the show.
Adrian, thank you for having me on. Pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, it was really good. Now, for ladies and gentlemen at home, if you haven't already, click on the subscribe button and click on the bell notification right next to it if you're on YouTube. However, if you're on Steemit, don't forget to give me a follow. There is much more cool stuff on the way.